1 o'clock, we need to call the Historic District Commission to order. James, do we have a roll call, please?
Pat Brown,
Here.
Andy Esters, Kathy Golden,
Here.
Wayne Keith,
Here.
Ken Savells.
Here.
You do have a quorum.
Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes from our December the 1st meeting?
I move to approve.
A second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Approved. New business. Have the draft of the LOD report in a public hearing the other day and thought it went very well. Had a few public comments. Wade, do you want to address any concerns with the public hearing?
I mean, most, we have three actual speakers. They were just basically in favor. They are representing Main Street as well as the property adjacent to the district and everything to it. Was in favor. She made some really good points in that having some local authorities and local guidance for the property owners down there really needs.
Yeah.
That's.
She's doesn't know, put vinyl windows in or wood windows, what?
Yeah, her job, since they've owned it, we've built it, so they've always really wanted to make sure they keep with the historic district, they just. It's hard to get guidance, we still have a lot of expertise right now, so long term. I think once we get those design statements in place and. I thought those were good comments, and then Carly Cash Ray. More or less just ask questions. Asked about whether a non-contributing building can be made contributing. I did answer her, yes, there's, assuming that the building would just be eligible to be contributing, it would have been back what was listed, contributing, it's just, it didn't because there have been too many changes. Yeah, there is a path where you can, as long as you can get the look on what it looked like back during the historical period, yeah, you can restore it, leave it a little bit to the point that it can be completed.
Do they own other buildings besides the home house?
Which ones do they own?
I don't know, I assume it's just home ice, but.
Oh, you're talking about Connie.
Yeah, Connie,
Absolutely. Didn't get anything in the district itself, but it's.
I wonder.
Do they by chance own those buildings that come around the corner all the way up to that one that's used as a church? Yeah, go south from their building, then come back up by the skate park?
I don't know. I don't know who owns those.
Wouldn't surprise me if they did.
Yeah.
Moscow would have bought them.
Yeah, you talking about the big long warehouse building.
That we were mentioning a minute ago, yeah.
That they very well could.
Seen any cash floodline or cash properties. Or list of the actual. Build, there we go. Yeah, 112 West Stevenson, Cash Enterprises, that's the old Phelps building.
One fell West Stevenson. That's coming the other way off the square.
Phelps building? One 12. What photo is that?
No, the leather shop.
Yeah. This one.
Oh, it's leather shop.
Yeah, right next to the old Lena Francis building.
Who owns this Savells home,
Vita's old building.
Vita's old building.
I don't know if Dwayne Hudson or somebody in the Richardson clan inherited that or not. That wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
not, it's not.
It's not, but which kind of.
Certainly should be, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions you asked is would the district be eligible for expansion in the future, which, I mean, there is ways to do that, that's not really, I think, long term. You know, we want to look at that, but I did kind of explain to her, the goal right now is to just overlay the actual national register listing, mirror that completely, get this up and running as efficiently as we can, and in the future, we'll do potential expansions, because if you understand the benefit for the land redevelopment, what planning to do, those historic structures. And she asked about grant money, the availability. So we did, we went on tax credits. And then actually when Eddie spoke, he talked a little bit more about the potential grant opportunities that come through the Main Street program, but that'll be even more, I guess, where they can do direct grants, some businesses, stuff like that. That was pretty much it. The only written comments I received prior to the public hearing was from fire department, which I sent copies of that out. Just think Chief Lowry was more concerned with language in the ordinance than they did with the authority place. That was really what he was looking at, how it would interact with their issuance of building permits and developments and so on.
Did he request any changes?
He did, I don't,
Yeah, I'm not really sure how to answer that, because I mean, he's kind of looking at it he's not looking at it at 10,000 foot level.
yeah, so I'll just say, it's common law section 5, where we say no building permit or other permit shall be granted for purpose of constructing or altering structures until an application for a certificate of appropriateness as to the exterior architectural features has been submitted to and approved by the agency. He's wanting it to say no building permit or other permit shall be granted for new construction or altering the exterior of any existing structure until an application for a certificate.
Has been issued to the exterior.
Yeah, and then when you go back above, I think what he wants is already covered anyway. Because.
I would not disagree with that.
At the start of section 5, when it's talking about. Oh, okay. No building or structure, including but not limited to masonry walls, fences, light fixtures, steps and paving. Other purposes, fixtures, or other elements set forth in design guidelines shall be erected, altered, restored, moved, or demolished within said historic district until after an application for a certificate of appropriateness as to the exterior architectural features has been submitted to. So that pretty well establishes all you guys were looking at.
The exterior.
Those exterior architecture.
Yeah.
And so he got some language that he wanted to add in, just kind of clarifying that as you go through, but it's 6.1 happened.
I mean, at the end of the day, we're the ones who's making the determination if it's anything other than exterior.
Right. And I think that's what he doesn't want. You know, he's worried that somebody at some point it'll start being to where somebody's having to do HVAC work or something like that.
Mhm.
Just avoid the confusion there.
You had another one about a 30-day time frame versus a time frame we
Yeah,
had.
that's one, that's probably the most concerning comment, that has to do with some recent changes and stuff at all. And with this, and I need to talk to you, you know, the ordinance is in the report as a draft. It's not necessarily in the report, that's what's in me, because it's still out in the council as an ordinance anyways. So I think, you know, as far as the report goes, I think the commission can just say, if there's any other changes that you want to make those, and then Richard Point, that is the final draft of the report. Not only that, as we do process in the council, that ordinance is likely going to qualify. Just the way I'm looking at it. Because I don't have a good answer for it. So there's a lot going on with our, in this last, there was a lot going on with this last general session with trying to pull away local regulatory authority by cities. Pull that away from cities because of a lot of headbutting in Northwest Arkansas, just Irish people. Their codes and standards have continued to evolve to the point that there's a lot of argument that they are absolutely prohibited, restricted, they're slowing things down, they can't keep up with housing. And so.
Everybody else gets thrown into the.
And it's like anything, we're up, some of it's good, some of it really, there was some stuff that would have actually just pretty much ended local code. There was a bill file,
But I
but,
think that's gonna pass.
well, we did not get out of this section. A lot of that stuff got kicked to interim study. So I do expect it was 27.
There'll be a version of, at least a version of it.
And then just to really complicate that, is it French Hill? He has filed a bill at the US level that will actually get down into the weeds of local zoning and planning. And it's a much broader bill than just the indoor planning zone, so there's a lot to watch and keep an eye on for the next little bit. I think, I mean, the one at the federal level has a lot to do with, funding and it's all geared towards making housing affordable. Get to the point that the housing affordable for young people again.
Right, don't make it affordable by restricting it. Like build new.
Right, and that's kind of,
Well, the other side of the coin is construction costs have got to come down.
Yeah.
We can afford to build anything.
Yeah, they're really high.
and it's, I won't say I wrote the entire US bill because it's, as in the US bill, it's massive, but I mean, it is trying to take a multifaceted approach to help keep some of the prohibitive local codes from getting in the way and also addressing construction costs. But a long way to get to, kind of what Mark was talking, Chief Lowry was talking about. In an effort to try to speed up the permitting process in a lot of cities where it can take months, just years, building permit.
Oh, man.
They have,
Deal with California.
yeah, they have adopted laws saying that the city has, I think it's 30 days from the time that an application is complete, they have to issue some sort of determination. Same goes for planning commission. There has to be some action within 30 days. Otherwise, then it gives the right for the person who's made the application, like on a building code, like on a building permit, they can hire a third party. It's going to be the review, make a determination whether it meets our local code, state codes, all that stuff.
They would have to go to a third party.
Yeah. There's some stuff in there that if there's no action taken within 30 days, also can just consider automatic. I'll be the best way to have done that. Once, that is what the state law is, at least for that.
Explain to me the third party thing a minute.
Well,
If I'm building something in the city,
it's not doing anything. Then you can hire a consulting firm. There's a number of consulting firms that will do third party plan review.
oh, okay.
So
They would take the Harrison City codes, look at what I wanted and say, yeah, it meets it or.
Building codes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
and that just helps in cases where there are cities that there's just so much going on. So
yeah.
A lot of cities now hire third parties anyway.
they do.
Got land use.
Oh,
I
really?
would say on P and Z stuff, my old firm, we did a lot of that for some of the smaller cities in the Northwest Arkansas area. Didn't,
Yeah.
they just weren't quite to the point yet. They would have somebody on staff. They would,
Yeah,
since Northwest Arkansas had its firms.
And I'm sure probably, Bill probably does hire.
I don't know. I know Fayetteville has an extensive P and Z building code. Rogers has got theirs. And back when I was up there, which was 15 years ago, I know they weren't being third parties there, because it was the bigger cities.
I just figured with the growth and the amount of stuff.
there's stuff going on everywhere.
Every time you turn around, there's something.
There's new lots cleared on 45, just on heading out of Fayetteville.
With that
Unbelievable.
tornado that came through Rogers, sure, that totally put a whole different
Yeah.
workload.
So, I appreciate it, she's come, and so I just have a question about this. Under this scenario with this proposed ordinance as it is right now, if it were enacted and there was a building permit applied for building downtown, and would y'all be reviewing it in order to see whether or not it's going to affect the exterior?
Yes, and that's what we would need them to do. If somebody comes in for a building permit to do something that would fall under this ordinance, we just need them to basically send them for now to my office to get it processed for CLA going.
So somebody who's just moving a bathroom in, and they know in their mind, they're not changing the exterior. They're just gonna fill out a building permit, and then if there's something more elaborate and they don't file for it, a certificate of appropriateness when they do their permit, you'll see that they need to, but you don't tell them that they need to.
Yeah.
So really, the person who's deciding whether or not it's gonna affect the exterior is first, the person who's gonna do the work, and secondly, the first person that sees a bid permit app.
And
2 season permit.
so it's the CRR division for fire, it's Chief Lowry's, guys, it's,
All the building code review is moving to the fire department now, totally.
and they're really good. If they see something that is a P&Z issue, they will pull me in. I meet with them every week and we go what's going on, just so. So I don't expect to have any issues with them. Once we have the district in place. Catching them, okay, they're wanting to redo their storefront. Obviously, that's going to require a certificate of appropriateness.
Mhm.
So we can get that process started. I do think that, and this is a conversation I'll have to have with Chief Lowry, I do think some of our building permit ordinance probably needs to be modified that, any work requiring a certificate of appropriateness, that permit application cannot be considered complete until the certificate of appropriateness is. And that helps keep us from getting into that 30-day where stuff can automatically be approved. And then the other, 90, 30 days talking about fixing an issue.
We had the 30 days noted in section 9.
Yeah.
So, I mean, fire department's given 30-day notice to fix something, but we're saying it could be 90 days.
But your perspective and what you're looking at is going to be different than they're looking at. They're looking at property maintenance code and life safety issues. You're simply looking at it from the historic district. So I would actually kind of argue that your deadlines need to be a little bit lengthier than theirs because they're dealing with the more critical.
Like especially, the safety, as soon as you mentioned that.
Yeah, then it's, and if it's something required from a safety perspective by our building officials, the certificate of appropriateness is part of that.
Yeah.
Because that's, safety comes first.
His point on section 6, he said, just suggesting some wording, said no change shall be made in the scope of the work except for the exterior. Goes back a little bit, like you're talking about, somebody gets started on a project and then they decide, boy, if I could change that. The front, I'd do this or move a door. Or something, change windows out, it'd be probably one of the more common ones. I've run into that on my building. You know, windows fall out, they break, you know, so. It's hard to deal with, and that would be an immediate change.
Again, back on section 6, also, when it goes back, this ordinance just doesn't apply to interior work. No, it doesn't matter how many times we qualify the statements in there, this, at the end of the day, anything that's required by this ordinance only applies to the exterior architecture.
It's covered prior to that.
Okay.
We don't have jurisdiction over it. Well, I mean, do you see a problem with this, section 14? All parts of ordinances in conflict are to by repeal. Their reason to stop the matter is to get our place to do that. Should we leave it to?
I think we should probably leave that to city council and city attorneys. Again, I don't necessarily see the same conflicts as him, just because the scope of the historic district commission in this ordinance.
Very
by
limited.
definition, very narrow, and that's all, all you're looking at. And it does. It's narrow and it has the, language in there where you defer on those safety issues in this building code safety issue. So.
Well, I mean, given all that, I would want to make a motion to report to the city council recommendation that they approve this ordinance, but also send out comments.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I think we just did.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Now, the city will get a copy of his comment, right?
Yes, yeah, I have to.
These need to be looked at, but like you're saying, at the city level.
Yeah, those comments will, everything, the summary of what,
Okay,
unfortunately, most of our councils have carried it, so.
yeah, they were. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll all be packaged up, included, and then even when it goes back to historic preservation, to that park service. All the comments, everything will be included in the package that goes to them.
So we'll go to the next city council meeting. And if they act on it, approve it. Is what's our next step?
Then I get back with historic preservation when we start the application, just certified up with that one.
Do we have any idea how long it's?
I do not have the feel for that.
And then once we get that, then we start sitting down or start. Then we're gonna still hire a third party to come in.
Yes, that would be the goal, was to hire somebody that has got the experience that will come in to help develop the design thing with design guidelines that are appropriate for our downtown, our district.
Now, let me ask that, or ask a question about that. Because the number thrown out early on was like $50,000 to hire these people to do what you outlined. We got this far by scabbing off of and copying everybody else's stuff. Can't we do that going forward? And I'll admit, I'm sure there's things I have no clue what we're gonna end up
The
addressing.
50,000 was going to be covered though by a grant.
I was gonna say, once we get through the CLG, then we'll talk for the CLG grants to help fund that, is my goal. And,
Okay,
But, we're talking 6 months, a year, or
yeah,
a month, I don't know.
and I would be cautious of, we got this far scabbing off, because one, we had a really good. When the district was listed, they did a great job of putting that in there that's specific to this district. And then really, I scabbed off with following, I don't believe reinvent the wheel, so I had some other LED reports that I used to get to, this is the type of info, this is what we need.
mm-hmm.
The only thing is, once we get into the design standards, what works in Eureka Springs or makes sense there doesn't make sense here. The same with Fayetteville's downtown. You know, there's similarities, but we really need to focus. We really want to develop our design standards around our, what's important historically in our downtown. And we need a team that has that experience, like, pull all the historic info, use the report, use the listing, use all of that, and have a much better understanding of architectural features than I do. And Pat's our best resource for that here. And then to pull all that into, some standards that make sense, that are enforceable and not overbearing.
Do we know of any companies that do that?
Not off the top. I've looked up on a few of them, and Ian had mentioned a few in our discussions that had done them for other cities.
Yeah, I'd assume that guy out of Little Rock would know
Yeah.
a couple of, his name.
So going forward, after this is submitted, we don't know what's going to happen.
No, not.
So how do we just set up, we will meet the second Monday as necessary, and then 2 weeks prior, call the meeting into play? Because there's no way to plan from here till
Yeah.
ongoing.
And once the ordinance is in effect, then the certificate of appropriateness requirement is in place, even though we don't have it last time. And that's where, what is it, the Secretary of the Interior's guidelines for historic preservation is got a 7 point. Anything that would come to this commission for certificate of appropriateness, you would just apply those standards as best you can until our local design standards. Yeah.
Let's talk about Beverly DeWitt's concern the other day, or question about, go vinyl windows, aluminum or wood or something like that. Is that a decision we're going to set in place, that thou shalt use this type of window?
And that will get built into the design standards. Now, interestingly enough, when I was working with historic preservation and Kelly on her restaurant in the old gymnastics place, that's a modern storefront that got put in on that first level. After quite a bit back and forth, they said, as long as that upper level still, looks to meet the historic guidelines, they, in districts, not individually listed buildings, but in districts, they're starting to really back off on doing, hardcore requirements for those main level storefronts. And the way they didn't put it to me, if it was a storefront before and it's a storefront after, as long as those upper levels they're keeping all that intact, they're starting to back off of that. So my hope is when we do this, those first level storefronts, we're not gonna.
Well, even when we went to El Dorado, to that Main Street deal, which El Dorado has a really nice downtown area. Now, outside of that, it's questionable. But there were a lot of those buildings had previously had wood storefronts, and they had changed them to aluminum. And it didn't affect their district at all, best I can tell.
Did they shape the aluminum to look like wood, so it was better withstanding than longer life than wood?
Well, most of it was like a bronze, and there was some aluminum, anodized aluminum frames that I didn't like the aluminum necessarily anodized. The darker.
Well, think about, you mentioned the old gym. That actually was a Croom's was the name of the store. Jim Foster owned it. And as I recall, Linda, y'all may recall, that was always all glass in there. Because they would have mannequins with clothes and stuff on. It was the whole front of that, and going to the door was. Yeah, it seemed like it was a walk into the door.
it was glass.
Sides and the front facing the street was all glass, so.
It remained that way when Vicky had his gymnastics, and that was a big part of the discussion with historic preservation after Russell, he had to redo it, it was failing.
Yeah, they're falling apart.
And so he went and just did a flush storefront, and that was a big part of the discussion, and I didn't think going into it that they were going to agree that it would still be contributed. But like I said, after quite a bit of back and forth, they finally acknowledged that, yeah, we, in our opinion, it's going to still contribute. They had some input on what she does with those upper windows to replace them.
Yeah,
But again, they're not necessarily requiring the wood. It needs to have that appearance of historic period
yeah,
versus.
two-piece windows or,
Right.
or however many pane
Right.
versus a solid
So,
piece of
yeah.
glass.
So what her plan is, and Russell had already replaced those with modern windows that they don't look like the double hung. They're just gonna go in and frame them up and make those look like double hung windows.
Yeah,
And
that'd be a
that's-
thing to do.
That's good enough.
When you think about, energy efficiency, today's windows versus wooden, windows from years ago, you'd be crazy to put that old stuff back in. You're gonna raise your cost of running the business. So somewhere we've got to find that balance, don't we?
Well, and I think what you said raises the point. You don't necessarily have to keep the building looking like it always was. It just needs to be contributed.
Right. And just like with the windows, then going in and framing those up to make them look like double hung, to give them,
The appearance.
yes, just give them appearance of that, then we're meeting what our goal is with the district. Because the district is just about the appearance from the street. What we see down there, it's not like individually listed. Camp Jack is eligible for, that building is eligible for individual listing. So I had to do wooden double hung windows when we did that remodel, and those things were expensive, holy cow. But with it being an individual listing, we're looking not just at that outward appearance, trying to maintain that, it's the whole building.
Wow. And the other thing is that downtowns aren't composed necessarily of the same types of businesses that they were in 1920. So people are gonna be changing the use of their buildings and should be allowed to change the exterior as needed to do that, as long as it's still contributing. And so as long as we have our contributing standards right, then we won't get into.
But,
Details like that.
if we make a decision and allow somebody to do something, who could come back and say it's not contributing?
That would occur if we were doing a resurvey of the district, for purposes of, well, I think that needs to be one of our steps, is to go back, resurvey the district, so we've got a good feel of what is still contributing, what's not. So that, one, we can work with property owners, non-contributing buildings, to help them get back, because there have been modifications since '99,
Mhm.
several contributing buildings that may or may not.
Yeah, and that kind of always made me wonder, because I mean, here, are we saying that this is gospel right now?
Right now, if it's listed as contributing, it's contributing until we do a resurvey. Or if I'm looking at a very specific project, let's say I'm trying to do this floodplain exemption. And it's a building that is a little bit of question, but it still contributes. So I may still have to kick it to historic preservation to get their approval, but as long as. But on anything that's considered contributing, that's obviously still contributing, as long as it comes through this commission, gets that certificate of appropriateness. That's good enough. Well, sounds like I'm talking about a moving target, but it very well could be as well.
Well, I think it is.
Right, I think it will be.
And, if we do look at expanding the district to open up some more area in the floodplain, to give it, a little bit more of an advantage for being able to redevelop. Then we're looking at, resurveying. just.
Hmm.
At some point, we will be able to do that process, and especially if we, and the other thing, the other moving target is, and I mentioned it Thursday night, is we might want to open up the actual district listing on the register, to talk about extending that period of significance to include 1964. Because right now, it
Through the
is,
flood.
yeah, right now it ends at 49, because that was 50 years before when they did the listing in that, so they really couldn't look at any impact. And
We're getting 50 years past the flood real quick.
Yeah, and whoever we hire to do the guidelines is, might well want to do a resurvey, might think recommend strongly that we do one.
And that's another, CLG grants can be available for funding that too. It's like any grant you gotta apply, don't forget it.
Mhm.
So we could apply for this grant.
After we actually get approved versus certified. As with anything in government, it's a slow process.
Yeah. Well, seems like we're on the right track.
Just hurry up and wait.
Okay, so this will go to city council at the next meeting or the following one, based when you get it all wrapped up, ready to go.
The recommendation.
And then we go into that wait mode.
So next meeting will be the 22nd. I think I can get it on the agenda. Maybe to get currents on the report. And then they can start looking at the ordinance. It'll be a third ordinance.
Oh, it is 3 reads.
Yes, it'll be a full 3 read. It's. Obviously, I can't speak for council, but if I were in their shoes, I would not do it. I would not do all 3 readings for adoption. In one custody, so I would push it to over the course of either 2 or 3 meetings. So if I get it to them on the 22nd.
Why? You think they're gonna get some pushback?
I think they're gonna wanna just. There's perception of rain and stuff through if they suspend rules and we do all 3 readings, and they can kind of avoid that unless there's just getting more attention. I can't.
I think we're the ones in a hurry for this, not the general public, so let's don't give that perception anywhere. This group can wait. We don't like it, but we can do it.
It's good not to just give that perception, just bring it close to the super fast. I've seen past councils do that, it does end up eroding some trust,
Okay, well, then I guess we will, hopefully get it in the January 22nd. First reading.
So I'll do 2 agenda items, one will be local ordinance district report, and then to concur with the findings. You'll agree with that. And then we'll just have the ordinance as a standalone, so they can start the discussion with that. I'll sit down with Chief Lowry, kind of go over what we're seeing in his comments. And I'll also.
Yeah, I don't want, Chief Lowry to feel like we're just.
Right.
That, that his words, that his letter doesn't go unnoticed.
Right, I agree, though. Issues that he raised, he probably better resolve it next time.
Is there any other business to come before this commission?
Just scheduling the next meeting, tentatively, March 9th.
And maybe decide what our days of meeting will be for the year, so I think we need a motion on that.
Well, I would say we probably wouldn't want to have a meeting till after the city council is approved.
Right.
So if we're looking at 3 readings. And they're meeting twice a month now, right?
Correct, so we would have potentially 1 reading before the end of January, because it could be second and third of March.
March 9th.
March 9th. What about going thereafter?
We had, last year, we had set them all for the first Monday. And the bylaws say we're supposed to decide when we're gonna have a regular meeting. That's really important, this, or having. Well, I'll just make a motion and talk that.
Mhm.
So, beginning with, our meeting on March 9, where that we, have our calendar set for a meeting once a month, on the second Monday. And yet,
Second Monday of each month.
at 1 o'clock.
We have a motion to have our monthly meeting on the second Monday of each month. We have a second,
Second,
Starting on March 9.
starting on March 9th.
just goes in.
Motion and a second, any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Day of each month. Any other discussion or any other agenda to be filed for this mission?
In regard to Beverly's witness,
Yes.
they're in serious trouble.
Oh, they're in bad shape.
Somebody needs to give her the go ahead to do something because those paintings are falling out right more than.
Which building is hers?
It's
Very sick.
Silver Building, the McGoy Building.
It's where Moto Day used to be, wasn't it? Wasn't it?
It,
She on the west side of the square?
West side.
it
Yeah.
starts on the west side, it starts next to the old Montgomery Ward Building. Like for Sherwin Williams used to be in Tasco. She's got, I think she said 6 sets of double windows. But if you stop and look at them, they are falling out, even the wood in between the 6 pane. I mean, she definitely needs some help right away.
Yeah, I'm sure.
So it's Montgomery Ward building going north.
Going north.
All right,
Mhm.
well,
I'm not sure we could give that direction at this.
Right now, she can do what she wants.
Yeah.
She wants, and I'll call Beverly and tell her kind of what we got into with, the restaurant there, on Essex, Old Fosterville. Cause that might relieve some of her concern that storefront change there did not render it. Not true,
But what did they use?
that's water storefront. It's,
it would seem to me that if and it truly is just, if you're driving by and you look at it, it wants to look the period of what we're doing. That almost any window that kept, any window manufacturing type stuff that kept the panes to be the same size.
It's got divided lights in it, hers.
There's
It's
six-
double
there's
hung,
six- yeah,
divided
6
lights.
panes. You can buy vinyl windows like that have the dividers in them. But hers,
Well, you could buy wood windows with
Yeah.
the dividers in between the glass. I mean, you can probably get aluminum windows, I guess, with.
When you say divided light, what's that?
Well, you have a window that's it's got the
Right,
individual
uh-huh,
panes. Now, they don't have to be actual individual, they can be just.
Right.
that appearance.
piece of glass and
And then an applied grill.
right. I'd say, and if it matched the color. Well, I don't
Think
remember what they
white
were,
now.
white rings a
but they're
bell.
a lot worse than they were a month ago.
Oh, yeah.
And they're falling out onto the street, and on top of
I didn't know
her,
it's that bad, but.
on top of her, canvas on something. And I mean, somebody really can get hurt.
It seemed to me if we told her to go back with the same style, whether it was set individual panes or one sheet of glass with the dividers set on it.
But, you know,
And
the
then
question
it was
is,
colored.
wood, is it vinyl, is it?
What do
aluminum?
we care about that? Tell me what, cause you're driving by and if it's painted white. What do we? I don't know
I don't
where,
know really how to answer.
I hear that question come up a lot, but
How
I
do
don't
you
know,
make-
what's the difference? Wood's a pain in the butt, you gotta repaint it a lot.
I would agree. You know, I have a tendency to say vinyl, but there's some cheap vinyl and there's some good vinyl.
Yeah.
I mean, that's,
Really violent.
yeah.
Yeah, vinyl can look like vinyl pretty quick with
Yeah.
the sun on it.
Well, she said at some point in time, she wants to have condos up there. So you want,
Well, you'd have to have double hung.
you'd have to have a bishop one.
You'd have to have double hung if, so that to have a bedroom, you have to have an operable window.
Escape, scenario,
Yes.
fire escape. Well,
I mean, you're forced to go to a double hung window in that situation.
Wade, are you gonna go talk to her then?
What do you think?
Well, I'm going to share with her what the historic preservation told me. And kind of share with her the solution that was reached for the upper windows. On the old gymnastics building, what they said on that storefront might be. As long as your first one was storefront, was still storefront. What they're telling me, they're not using that as a trigger to say it's not a church. Is what was that? The old gymnastics place compared to what's there today, that's a tremendous change.
yeah,
And if that didn't render that building up beauty, then I feel like when we do our design standards, we're really not gonna be looking at those first level storefronts. And so whatever she got up top, as long as it puts that appearance out, whether she just goes with some modern aluminum window replacement, and it does a simple framing to make them look double hung, I'll also remind her that she wants the bedrooms.
And if you want, yeah, if you're wanting to put living units up there, you're gonna be forced to go to their.
there's the answer right
Yeah,
there.
that forces the offer, but again, you know, as far as the historic district, as long as she's.
You can get some really nice aluminum clad wood windows. You get vinyl clad wood windows. You know, they're wood windows, but they're cladded with aluminum or vinyl. But they're not cheap.
Well, if she's gonna put condos up there, I hope she wouldn't go with cheap windows anyway,
Like I said, there's cheap vinyl and there's expensive vinyl. There's cheap wood and there's expensive wood. I mean. That's gonna be the hardest part. Saying that, okay, we're gonna allow vinyl windows, but.
Is there a grade of vinyl we've gotta put in there?
And that's gonna be part of the discussion.
That's
so.
Yeah.
All right.
You just
You're-
don't want.
You're
anybody
answering my
putting cheap
question.
stuff
Dave.
in there.
I'd say get with Beverly and give her a call. We don't want her to get sued and windows landed on somebody and
Or
this
find
window
out that-
problem can be solved pretty
Find out
easy.
that what she did was not what she should have done.
Yeah, to put in regular windows when we know sitting here, they better be double hung, okay? Do that at least. But you're right, we put in cheap windows, they'll look cheap after
They will.
not too long a time.
Is it too soon to start? How much? Somebody to do the guideline?
Not necessarily, when I've been looking to see who's done some other guidelines, other cities recently, with their seats, at least have a conversation. It's one of those, I would probably look at it as, it's gonna be a professional level service, we would do qualification based selection once we got to do that. I wouldn't get too far ahead, I wouldn't start doing qualification based selection. I'll need to talk to historic preservation, because the CLG grant, part of it may have. It may have its own rules on how we fix somebody.
Yeah.
So I would like. Having some discussion with people that would like, yeah, maybe if you would like, we'll get there, it's probably fun, but I don't think we should. We probably don't need to do anything, real formal, because. We're at least a certified local government, we applied for that CLG grant and we feel
That makes sense.
what they're at. I'm guessing the requirements, as long as you still have them, that, according to state law or local ordinance, that'll be fine, I don't see those grants being. Overly, a lot of red tape,
Not like building in California.
but what I try to do it on the project or something like that.
I think the state historic preservation might have worked with all of it.
That's a good guess. All right.
Make a motion to adjourn.
We have a motion, how about a second? To the second discussion. All in favor, say aye. All opposed?
Good discussion.
Good discussion and,
We're gonna have a lot of those, I can see.
yeah.